Here we are in the final week of Advent, so all the candles on the wreath are lit. Christmas is this week. And so throughout Advent, in each of my homilies, I've been taking each Sunday a different figure from the scriptures and allowing them to tutor us in how to be ready for the coming of Jesus on Christmas. And so week number 1, we took John the Baptist. Week number 2, we took Joseph. Last week, we took Elizabeth. And this week, this might catch some of you off guard, we're going to talk about Zechariah. I like Zechariah. So he's John the Baptist's dad, and then John the Baptist is Jesus' cousin, so like your cousin's dad? I don't know how that would relate to Jesus' uncle, maybe? Jesus' uncle, kind of? Everybody has an Uncle Zechariah, right? But what does Uncle Zechariah, quote unquote, want to teach us to help us to prepare for Christmas? You'll be pleased to know I have one thing. That excites you. What does he want to teach us? It's this. All things work for good for those who love God. Everything in our lives, when given over to God, work for good. Let's look at the scriptures and see where Zechariah would have experienced this. So this is Luke 1. At the time of the reign of King Herod, there was a priest named Zechariah and his wife Elizabeth. Both of them were righteous in the eyes of God, observing blamelessly all the commandments and ordinances of the Lord. But they had no children, because Elizabeth was barren, and both were advanced in years. Then there appeared to Zechariah an angel of the Lord. When he beheld him, he was terrified and overcome with fear. But the angel said to him, "Do not be afraid, Zechariah, for your prayer has been heard. Your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son, and you shall name him John. He will be a source of joy and delight to you, and many will rejoice at his birth, for he will be great in the sight of the Lord." Zechariah said to the angel, "How can I be assured of this? For I'm an old man, and my wife is well past the stage of giving birth." The angel replied, "I am Gabriel. I stand in the presence of God, and I have been sent to speak with you and to convey to you this good news. But now, because you did not believe my words, which will be fulfilled, you will lose your power to speak and will be mute until the days these things take place." Now, what do I want to really draw our eyes to here? Notice what the angel, which is God's words through the angel, saying to Zechariah. "Do not be afraid, Zechariah. Your prayer has been heard." You have to imagine, he meets Elizabeth however many years ago, and the two of them have all these hopes and dreams for their life. They've been praying for a child. And they've been praying and praying and praying, and he's getting older and older and older, and all of a sudden, Elizabeth is past the age when she can give birth. He probably at some point, I'm just guessing here, but I would imagine he's starting to lose hope. And he's starting to think to himself, did God even hear my prayer? I would even venture to guess that Zechariah actually probably stopped praying that prayer at some point. Whatever, put his hands up. And then all of a sudden in this place of, okay, I guess that's it. All of a sudden in this place, God, via the angel, comes in and he's like, "Zechariah, guess what? Not only am I going to answer your prayer," because maybe Zechariah's like, "I'll even take, B honor roll students. I don't even need A honor roll." Literally just any sort of. The angel comes to him and is like, "I'm not even just going to give you A honor roll National Honor Society kid. I'm going to give you John the Baptist, who Jesus said there's no one greater born of woman than John the Baptist." And how does Zechariah respond? How does he respond to that angel, that good news? To paraphrase what he says, Zechariah is basically like, "Yeah, that's great. Seems a little too good to be true, actually. I'll believe you when I see it. I don't want to get my hopes up. You prove it to me, and then we'll go from there," is kind of what he tells the angel. Now, in shorthand, the angel did not like that response. Mary, because again, they're similar situations. People always compare the two. When the angel comes to Mary and is like, "You're going to have a child, and the child's going to be really important in God's plan," Mary's like, "Okay, that's kind of confusing to me, but I believe you." When John the Baptist's dad, Zechariah, he replies with kind of a, "I'll believe it when I see it." Angel didn't like that. And so what happens to him? he makes him silent for 9 months. Can you imagine that? I was telling the kids at the school the other day, I'm like, I went on a silent retreat for 8 days. And they're like, you silent 8 days? I'm like, yes, sir, miracles are real. But could you imagine 9 months? Now, some people read that passage of Zechariah being muted by the angel, and it's like a punishment. Zechariah was a naughty boy, and the angel's like, go to your room. I don't want to hear from you until that baby's born. You think about what you've done. Is it a punishment? Maybe. But I actually think there's a way that you could read this where it's not actually as much a punishment as it is, you ready for this? Medicinal. You know how the angel was going to heal his distrust? Zechariah, shush. Zechariah is coming back at the angel with, yeah, but. The angel's like, no, I've had enough of the yeah, but. You need to listen to him who actually has the answers. And so for the next 9 months, you are going to need to listen. You are going to be silent. Silence is a magnifying of the heart. When we are silent, it's not just this big empty vat of space that we're creating. Like, silence is scary to some people, but it's like, when it's silence with God, we're turning all of the dials of noise down on our life. The TV, the sports, the phone, the social media, all of them we're turning down. And we're turning up the dial of the voice that is most important to us, God. We're listening to the voice intentionally that's most interesting to me. Put differently, I'm putting on my spiritual stethoscope and I'm listening to the heart of Jesus. That's what silence is. So when the angel is giving silence to Zechariah, we could see that as we could also see that as a gift. And what happened at the end of 9 months? What are the first things that come out of Zechariah's mouth after 9 months? I'm not going to read the whole thing like this because I'll wear myself out, but blessed be the Lord, the God of Israel. He has visited his people and redeemed them. And he goes on and on for like 12 verses like that. His faith was healed. Do you want to know what was happening? He started that 9 months with this wound of distrust. He didn't believe it. No, it's too good to be true. God couldn't be that good. And even if he is, he's not that good to me. Wrong. 9 months later, after he had to zip and listen, for 9 months, he realized, actually, God is that good. God's that good to me, and God's plan is actually better than anything I could come up with. He was healed. And so what does he want to tell you and me as we prepare for Christmas? It's kind of like a paradox, but he wants to tell us what God told St. Paul. That in God's power is made perfect in weakness. Let me say that again. God's power, God's strength, God's goodness is made perfect in our failures. Look at Zechariah. He's like, me and Elizabeth's inability to have a child was made perfect in God's fruitfulness in John the Baptist. My distrust was made perfect in God's trustworthiness. To give you an example from my own life, and this isn't a Father Ryan flex, this is a real thing. This is all glory to God. But for me, I can use that statement and I say, God's freedom and clarity and gifts were made perfect in my cross of OCD. I've told you before, I carry that cross, obsessive compulsive disorder. Every time the cross is off center, you see me move it. Yeah, there it is. It's deeper than that, but this is a cross that I've carried. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't wish OCD upon my worst enemy. There were moments in my life where I have prayed for it to go away. I'm like, Lord, take this away. Why can't I have like a normal cross? Why do I have to have this? I'm sure we've all said prayers like that in our life. But it's difficult. You're thinking and you're trying, you get stuck in your own head, and it's almost like the transmission to move from one thought to another is like broken. And so you kind of have to learn to, anyways. So it's this cross. Now, it's difficult. I wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy. However, through that weakness in my life, that has thrusted me into a deeper relationship with God. What do I mean? Do you want to know what brings me to my knees, or what brought me to my knees in seminary? Lord, I can't do this. I can't fix the transmission. I don't know where else to turn. Lord, I need you. That brought me to my knees. My relationship with God exponentially grew because of that cross. His power was made perfect in my weakness. And then all these people in this cross came flooding into my life and showing me God's love. My role model, my spiritual director, Monsignor Rolfs, I would not have even met him if it wasn't for this cross. Or the number of friendships that have come in. I mean, think about the crosses in your life and the number of people God sends you to be with you in it. One of them sitting on this altar, hopefully he's awake over there. Yeah, he did, he moved. All right. Deacon Hall. The number of times I've went to a friend like Deacon Hall and I've said, brother, the cross is heavy today. Can you just be with me in this? Our friendship grew deeper because of that cross. Or even like my dad. You know, as a kid, you relate to your parents a certain way, and then you become an adult, you relate to them in a different way. I remember calling my dad as a grown man and being like, Dad, I got to talk to you about something. This is really hard. And then the amount of like depth that opened up in our relationship was so beautiful. And I could go on and on and on. I've met friends. I've had these people come in to help me. I hear people who are stuck in their own head, and I'm actually able to empathize with them because of this cross. And so in some strange way, I would never wish this upon anyone, but in some really strange way, OCD was one of the best things that ever happened to me. Because God's power, God's freedom, God's gift were made perfect in my weakness. Just like Zechariah's distrust was made perfect by God's trust. My brothers and sisters, sometimes it's actually what breaks your heart, what cracks your heart, that's the door where God gets in. And so I ask you today, what does Zechariah want to tell you and me as we prepare for Jesus' birthday? He wants to tell you this. Your weakness is not disqualifying you from relationship with God. It's actually what's propelling you. You want to know the place deepest where God is going to work in your heart? Right there. And you know what you're thinking of at this moment. It's not disqualifying you. Your weakness is actually made perfect in God's power. And so, what is it? Are you having anxiety? Did you wake up this morning with anxiety? God's peace is made perfect in anxiety. God's purity is made perfect in lust. His humility is made perfect in pride. His health is made perfect in sickness. In addiction, God's power is made perfect in your addiction via freedom. In forgiveness, brokenness, life, death, whatever it is. And so let's take Zechariah's advice today as we prepare for Christmas, as we walk up to that crib to be with Jesus. You don't need to be like, oh my gosh, my weakness. The baby's going to be like, ugh. No, actually, the baby wants to take that weakness and use it for good. All things work for good for those who love God. God's power is made perfect in your weakness. Now we'll stand and profess our faith. I believe